I'm Mindy Peterson, and this is Enhanced Life with Music, where we explore the ways music can make our lives better and spotlight the resources you can use to enhance your life with music. My guest today is joining me from Santa Monica, California. David Sonnenschein is a neuroscientist, musician, filmmaker, sound designer, and educator. There are a million different topics that I would love to interview David about, but today we're talking about his work with IQ Sonics, researching and developing music and audio for brain health. Specifically, we're talking about IQ Sonics' flagship program, Sing and Speak for Kids. It's a music-based game to help young children with speech delays. Welcome to Enhanced Life with Music, David.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. Speech delays, I know, are very common with young children. One of my kids needed speech therapy during preschool years. And I know it's so important for kindergarten readiness that kiddos have a certain level of fluency. But I know that's not the only demographic that Sing and Speak for Kids is for. It's also designed for kiddos with Down syndrome, those who are on the autism spectrum, dual language learners. Tell us more about who this music language program is for.
Well, absolutely. It's the age range of developmentally normal kids would be 2 to 8 years old. We've had 12-year-olds, 30-year-olds use it who may be also with intellectual disabilities. So it's associated really with what stage are they at, both socially, intellectually, and also specifically with their speech language development. So we're working with kids that have any shade of delay and honestly, ones who are neurotypical, who develop normally, love playing the game. So it really can help any kid. We had one kid who was, and probably will never speak, and uses sign language.
Okay.
So we even work with that end of the spectrum of speech
Okay.
language development.
Well, and I hadn't realized that you use this with older kids and even adults who are sort of young at heart. They're in that developmental, age of 2 to 7 developmentally. But I think you've also had kiddos use this who are as young as 18 months. Is that right?
That well, yes, that's usually earlier than we get to know that they have a speech delay. If they're not speaking by
Hmm.
18 months, most often the parents, are wondering what's going on, but they may not have gone in for any diagnosis. They may not be seeking a solution or treatment or anything like that. By the time they get to 2 years, if they're not speaking, it's usually a red flag. But a pediatrician specialized in this area has said, yes, it is appropriate for those at 18 months. And we're
Okay.
not talking, I just want to be clear, we're not talking the normal screen time of watching TV or cartoons or music videos. We are talking about a shared experience with a facilitator who may be a teacher, clinician, or parent, or even sibling, so that it's really a social activity that's going on, not something that is a babysitter.
Yeah, so tell us more about the interface. I know it's something
Yeah.
that's accessed online, computer or mobile device. It's kind of like a gamified type of a format, but tell us more about the user experience and the interface, what it's like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, we have two users. We have the facilitator, who is either the teacher or the parent, usually, who will be registering, logging in, doing all the technical stuff of getting it online.
And when you say
We
teacher,
are
this could be like a speech language pathologist
oh,
too, right?
any type of professional. We call them just professionals. That could be ABAs, speech language pathologists, music therapists. We've had all kinds of people. Anybody who's really with a child who has speech delay and can use this program. It's
Okay.
simple enough for parents to use. So we have currently a basic and a premium model, which I can go into in more detail. The professionals usually using the premium for the pre and post assessments and tracking progress, etc. Parents may just want to play the game, so we have two available. So that's really what it is. It is an online game. We're just launching now as a mobile app on both Google Play and Apple Store, and it's online and any other device, a tablet or laptop, and you could just log in and play just like any game, you get a menu and get to select a song to play, and it goes through a 5 levels of gameplay with each song, starting with singing with the person that's on screen as a professional singer, accompanied by a musical instrument like a guitar or piano. And along with that are the target words that appear with images on the screen as they're being sung. So there's an association. We have 6 lyric lines with 6 target words at the end of each line. And so the image comes up at the end. And then the next level of the game is the same, except we remove the musical instrument. So it's singing a cappella.
Ah,
And the child is prompted to sing along, not just with what's on screen, but sing along with the parent or the teacher or clinician. So there's a group activity and
uh-huh.
firing the neurons for everybody visually and tactily and sonically is a big part of this. And once they are getting along with this and starting to do it, because music is really a key to opening up their minds, then they go into the next layers of the game where the singer drops off the last word and the child fills it in. So we're using their memory as they're
Okay.
going through. And just like when we learned A, B, C, D, E, F, you know what that's going to be. So we all learned it. A
Yeah.
lot of us, just music is natural for learning anything. We use Gestalt perceptual principles like the law of completion that actually fills in the child's and anybody's brain what's missing. If they've been trained enough to hear it and see it, then they start to fill it in. So it's
Uh-huh.
a memory kind of thing. Then we go from singing to natural speaking with the same lines, same images are being rotated to different images of that particular word. So it's not fixated on one particular image, but generalizing.
Okay.
And and then the final stage is where the picture of that word is displayed and they're asked, "What is this?" or "What are they doing?" Whatever's on screen, for them to be prompted to say the word then conversationally, just in a question response.
Okay, so it's kinda transferring those skills that they've developed into a conversational context,
Exactly.
because the goal is really to not need this game anymore, but to be able to
That's
speak
right.
without it.
Yeah, so music is a scaffolding that is gradually faded through these 5 stages. And the game itself is scaffolding that when left behind, they are now able to speak in natural environments with their friends and family.
Yeah, okay. Talk to us some more about the different contexts that Sing and Speak for Kids can be used. I know we've talked about using it at home with parents, at
Hmm.
school. We talked about speech language pathologists, so clinic.
Yeah,
So talk to us about some of those different contexts.
sure. The professional would work normally in a clinic one on one. In school, the teacher might be one on one or with a group. So we can do both. With the group, we just can't track progress of any individual child because we're not identifying who's speaking and when they're going to the next level. But the group factor is sometimes a very positive thing where they can chime in and kind of encourage each other. In fact, and it's a fun group activity in that
Yeah,
way. And then we can do it also at home. And in home, we can do it with the parent, grandparent, and even siblings. And siblings are really important in some families because the older siblings are more the caregivers even than the parents who may be off working all day.
yeah.
And we are also able to do it virtually. So we have actually used where the screen can be controlled either by the clinician who may be at a distance, like on a Zoom call, and share screen, and then the child is responding just as they would if it was their own screen, or the parent can do it on their screen and share that screen with the clinician who can accompany. So either the parent or the teacher would be doing the controls. And so
Okay.
we've done all these tests and this we make it available in any condition possible and recently have taken it offline as well. So you don't have to have an internet connection while you're playing.
Oh, okay. So that would make it more readily available to use in a car ride. when you're going
Totally.
shuttling your kids back and forth to either
Exactly.
their activities or, like, their siblings' lessons and activities, and they're just sorta stuck in the car, or you're on a road trip going to grandma's for the summer, whatever.
Exactly, and we've been asked a lot of it has been with user feedback as we've been developing this. We asked everybody, "What do you need? Is there difficulty you're having with some part of it?" And we make it as frictionless as possible so that you just turn it on and it works, basically.
Okay. So those are lots of different environments it can be used in. And when you're talking about using it with a SLP, speech language pathologist, or teacher, professional, it can be used during the session with the kiddo, or it can be used at home, like in between therapy
Exactly.
sessions to sort
And
of increase
like
the results that you're getting.
it's exactly the idea that it's repetition is key to learning in anything. And
Yeah.
so the more they get that and also in varied environments, it's helpful because there's more generalization. And
Ah.
where
Yeah.
we're
Again.
going with it next is we're actually personalizing it to the individual child more with a feature called Make Your Own Song. So then it could be part of their own environment. Let's say they have a teddy bear or some object or some activity in the house that's particular to them, that can become part of the song lyrics.
Love it. That's great. Well, there's so many thoughts that I have as you're talking about this. One, I'm just thinking about my own experience with my son when he was in speech therapy. In that situation, uh, again, lots of thoughts there. One is that I just basically took him to his therapy sessions. He actually got bused there. There was a bus, it was through the school district, so the bus would come pick him up, take him there, bring him home. So it was very convenient and he loved it. But I really had no clue what they were doing with him. Whereas if he had something like this to do in between sessions, it would really kinda loop me in a little bit more to see what he's doing and just have a more of an awareness of what he's working on. The other thought that I had is he had an older sister, and like a lot of big sisters, she was very nurturing, and she would have loved to do this with him. She loved to play school. I could see her just being really helpful in his therapy by doing this with him and really getting into it and feeling like she was really contributing because she really would have been contributing by doing this with him.
Yeah, you've hit on super important points. The success of this is not just engaging the child or just getting the results of the child using the program. It's the success of all the people that are in support of this child. And you
Yeah.
gave two really, really good examples. And so over the years, we've just been listening carefully, like, what do people want? I'm talking about the parents, the siblings, the teachers, the clinicians. Where are they going to engage? And we're gamifying it actually more for them now. It's been gamified for the child to have fun with lots of fun sounds and little animation rewards and all that is built for them. And we're building up the whole infrastructure around so it's gamified, it's rewarding, it's engaging, like
Yeah.
other programs like Duolingo, for example, or Fitbit are very popular engagements for adults with gamification.
Yeah. The other thought that I'm having too is this could be really helpful for early intervention, like before your child even necessarily qualifies for help. So back again to the example of my son, when he started talking, I was just like, man, I do not understand a thing this poor kid is saying. Fortunately, I did have the older daughter and she was literally our translator. Like for some reason, she could understand him and she would relay to us, he said, blah, blah, blah. And he'd just be beaming like somebody knows what I'm talking about. And so when I first had him evaluated for speech therapy, they were like, yeah, I kind of see what you're talking about, but he doesn't really quite qualify yet. And if you still can't understand him in say 6 months or whatever the magic timetable was at the time, call us back. We'll evaluate him again. So the time came and I called him back. I'm like, I still can't understand anything. So they came back and at that point he did qualify, but I'm thinking, That's like 6 months or 9 months or whatever it was that if we could have gotten him started on something like this, maybe we would have been able to shorten the time frame where it would have been less frustrating for him and for me as a parent because we'd be able to understand him sooner.
Oh, I'm going to use that quote you just said because we have a grant proposal based on exactly that demand where there's a wait list to get diagnosed or
Sure.
assessed, and it can go from 3 months to a year. We're working with Children's Hospital of Orange County to actually fill that gap of that in between time with our program Sing and Speak for Kids. And there's a Thompson Autism Center that really recognizes systemically what you just described. And so we're writing to get funding to do a large clinical trial to show the effectiveness. We've already done a small clinical trial. Let's point out that we are already an evidence-based practice. It's just large
Uh-huh.
hospitals like large clinical trials, and that costs a lot of money to run a trial. But nonetheless, it's already working that way, and we've already tested it. They just wanted more numbers.
And so much more affordable too for these
Totally.
systems to have families working with your app or your program here rather than having one-on-one sessions with an SLP, which is great. But if they don't quite qualify, or there's a wait list to get into an SLP, or there's affordability issues, or there's just not an SLP in their area, some rural areas just are underserved and don't have access to that.
It's exactly our marketing copy. We have actually covered every one of those areas and saying, we have this issue, this problem, and we're solving it with this program. And all of what you just said is exactly what we've been aiming at, and we're finding success in all of those areas. So I hope that the listeners here will go aha and recognize, oh, this might serve this particular case or this client or the school district because we really are ready to share this. And we're just launching as we speak. We're launching the newest version with the basic and the premium models. So the basic is just the gameplay. Most parents are just going to play the game as it is, and it's a lot of fun, and the kids learn. Most professionals are going to want to do pre and post assessment, which is built in, along with progress tracking of basically everything in terms of how many words they're learning, what songs they're playing, did they finish the song, all of that, and how long are they in the game, and sharing the account information with the parent and the professional. So all that's in the premium model.
Okay.
And so they're both available. We'll have the enterprise model, as it were, the same program, but for licensing for larger institutions, like let's say for a semester or a large group of kids, we'll be able to reduce the price per head on that for that.
Okay. One of my favorite ways to enhance my life with music is to play just for fun songs on the piano at the end of the day. My current favorites are ABBA songs and songs from the 80s, like We Are the World. With Sheet Music Direct, I can explore new music, track my favorites, play and download scores anytime from any device. This online treasure trove of digital sheet music is powered by music publisher Hal Leonard and has over 1 million arrangements, ready to view, listen to, and download instantly. Prices start at just 99 cents and include selections for every instrument, genre, and skill level. My family has relied on Sheet Music Direct for years for musical joy and convenience. For an entire musical library at your fingertips, visit sheetmusicdirect.com. If you've listened to this podcast for long, you know that in addition to being passionate about music, I am also passionate about natural health and well-being. So I was intrigued to learn about an all-natural toothpaste developed by a biologic holistic dentist to effectively clean and protect teeth and strengthen enamel without fluoride or the many chemicals that are ubiquitous in the commercial toothpaste that I've always used without a second thought. What really caught my attention was that one of these dentist products was specially formulated for sensitive teeth, which I have thanks to gum recession. I was a little skeptical that an all-natural product would provide adequate sensitivity protection, but after trying it for several months, I am a fan. What clinched the deal was going to my 6-month dental cleaning and having my hygienist rave about the whiteness of my teeth. To learn more about the Living Well sensitive tooth powder and their other products and get 10% off your order, check out the link in the show notes or use coupon code MUSICENHANCES10 at livingwellwithdrmichelle.com. Well, and for parents who are listening to this and thinking, I kind of liked your idea of putting your kid on a bus and he just goes off to speech therapy and comes home later. Like, I don't know if I have time to do this myself. I think for the parent to do this with a child, they only need 10 minutes a day.
That's what we've already tested clinically to see that just that much makes a really, really big difference. Besides, it's a game. If you're going to want to play anything with your kid, read a story, sing a piece of your favorite songs, doing something that's maybe around the house, like tidying up and having the kid lift things or doing gardening. It's another activity for them to get focused on and enjoy. And most kids really like music.
Mm,
And
mm,
in a particular, kids with autism generally have an affection and an attraction to music, as do normal kids.
mm,
Where they lack in speech language production, they overcome it when they're singing. And this is a phenomenon that goes down into the neurological aspects of what's happening, which is that music lights up the brain in so many different centers for rhythm, for melody, for harmony, and the idea of what we call mirror neurons is how we all learn how to speak. The first word usually is mama, ma mama, and then we start pointing at things, and those words become first enunciated by the parent or the loved one, and then the child begins to repeat them.
mm,
And so we learn language by what is known as echolalia, which is the phenomenon of being in a conversation with somebody, but that other person just repeats back. Well, a lot of kids with autism have echolalia. They know how to repeat back, but it's not a regular conversation. We're not engaging.
mm.
Like, how are you feeling? They don't answer the question. They say, how are you feeling? And
Okay.
we actually learn how to sing. All of us learn how to sing with echolalia. We're just repeating what we're hearing.
Mm,
And so that taps into another aspect of how their brains are wired around sound and music and language. So we go with it. We go with the flow. And so their echolalia is actually what we're tapping into at the beginning of the whole game, each song. And gradually we're moving, as I was saying earlier, to them spontaneously answering a question, semantic question, which is not echolalia anymore. This is
mm.
conversation.
Well, and I love that you have that neuroscience background, so you can and I wanna get into some more of, like, the evidence-based, the clinical testing, the science behind this. Before I do that, just a couple things I wanna make sure I don't forget to point out is, one, like I was saying, with my son, I didn't really know much about what was going on with his speech therapy because it was happening offsite. I wasn't around for it, and so I like that aspect of Sing and Speak for Kids, that the parents do have some concept of what's going on with their kids' speech therapy, what they're learning, how they're doing it, seeing milestone accomplishments, things like that. But one thing I want to point out is when you and I were talking offline, you had mentioned that in certain cultures, there is a perception that parents should not get involved and they should leave the teaching to the teachers. And it's almost rude to get involved in any way. And that this really provides a way around that. It's a way for parents to get involved and understand what their child is learning and how they're learning it without feeling like they're intruding in any way.
Yeah, it's so you could call it reframing,
Mhm.
basically a cultural mindset of what's proper or what's rude or what's embarrassing may not be the same for all cultures.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, if we're looking at specifically Latino families who have a sense that the teacher should be the one to teach, not the parents, they're very strong in having fun with their kids, doing group activities. They sing together, they go to church together, they'll have lots of parties together, and the meals are all together. So we basically encourage it to be seen as a family activity, of fun, a game. And it's just another game, and they get to, and everybody's got a cell phone now that you don't have to convince them to use a cell phone. Um, everybody's got a cell phone, and getting it offline is helping to let them use it at any time as well.
Yeah.
So they just say, "Hey, let's play the jogo." We're playing the game now, and everybody sits down and just has fun.
Yeah.
So it's not a teaching moment.
Yeah. Well, and I love about that too is just the multi-generational aspect. I have a mother who has a traumatic brain injury from a car accident that she was in, and I could totally picture her really getting into doing this with her grandkids and it benefiting both of them. And so I think that could be really cool if you have a grandparent or a grandparent, maybe with dementia. This could be
And
something that
yeah,
maybe it's not, the primary therapy for the dementia grandma, but it's still helping and it's still something she can engage in with her grandchild. So
I love that. I would love if you can try that out and report back. I'd love to hear how that goes because that is many people have asked me, "Hey, can we use it with our grandparents? They're having trouble with their speech, aphasia or dementia or Alzheimer's and different aspects of diagnosis, but basically they're having a hard time to talk." I say, "Can you use music?" And the answer is absolutely yes. And I'll say that one of the things that is different for the older people is that they have a memory that can be reawakened if it's music from their youth. And in
yeah.
particular, that's the period when they got really attached and in sync with music. And if you play the music that was in their teens and 20s that they really liked and bonded with all their socializing and dancing
Mhm.
and activities, it's like waking them up in a way that's much more than just music per se. It's
Yeah.
a whole reawakening the circuitry
Have
when
you
they
seen
were
that documentary, Alive Inside?
yeah, amazing, amazing. Oliver Sacks
Yeah.
was the scientist there, and I've studied many of his writings, and I never got to meet him, but he really is one of my mentors. Yeah, he's an
Mm,
amazing, amazing person and
yeah.
researcher.
Well, one other thing I want to point out before we talk about some of the science behind this product is you alluded to the fact that the specialist, the professional who's working with this, does get data tracking. There's the shared data and progress reports that they get. The learning that the child is engaged in is tracked in real time. And then the data is formatted into graphs and things that can be shared between professionals and parents. So really practical, helpful information there. Any other comments that you want to make
Yeah,
about that before we talk about some of the science
yeah.
behind?
And even for the basic model, without going into details, on our song menu, you can immediately see each song, how far have they gone in that
Ah,
song. So you can say, "Oh, we never did this one." It'll be clear that that's a new one. Or
yeah,
if it's all green, that, "Oh, we've already completed that one." If it's like a little blue bar and they got halfway through. So it's an indication of where you might wanna go next and just easy data just to see right on the menu itself.
sure. Well, this is an evidence-based, clinically tested program. It's has federal funding. There's outcomes published in peer-reviewed journals. Tell us a little bit about the science behind it and why music. What is it about music that facilitates success in this application to speech?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were speaking a little bit just a couple minutes ago about specifically for autism, where some of the programmed actions and game levels and all that attend to, like, for example, the echolalia um, and the scaffolding of music to natural speech. So I'll go back a little bit with how this program got developed. I had been working on a previous game for STEM learners, older learners, that was called Three Deaf Mice. And it was really a fun game about a rock and roll band, and
So
they had
not
to
3
find
blind mice.
three exactly. They were a rock and roll band. Their ears had gotten blasted out because the
Oh,
music had it was so loud. And the assignment is that you, the player, the student, has to find the sounds for them in the game, like a treasure hunt, and make them into the songs. So along the way, there's all sorts of STEM curriculum that's going on with the math and the engineering and the biology and all the different levels that you can teach different things inside of a game atmosphere. And it's a lot of fun. It's all about music. So somebody was looking at this and they said, this would be really good for kids with autism. I think that they're going to learn a lot. It's going to help them in many ways, the way you're developing this. And so I started researching what had already been done in terms of clinical research around music and autism and speech and things. And I found this paper written by Dr. Haiyan Lim, who's now our director of science. And she'd done already a clinical trial with 50 kids with autism, comparing in a 2-week period songs that she had composed specifically with a protocol called developmental speech language training through music, which is known as a neurologic music therapy that's been inside of that particular system that music therapists have been working with, studying, and developing over the last 20 some odd years. So she had done this and showed really amazing results. I contacted her and said, I think this would really work well in an online game. You want to work with me? And so we've been working together for 10 years now. And the game then developed out of that protocol, and we added reward systems and on-screen singers and whole thing. But basically, those 5 steps that I described is the protocol from that music therapy.
Okay, those are the
So,
5
so
different levels that you go
yeah,
through in
yeah,
each game.
right.
Okay.
So with that clinical trial done, I had the confidence that we had something that was really working. And then I worked on building this out of my own funds and my own sweat, labor, and everybody was on deferred salaries until we got this thing off and running. And then I got a grant from the Department of Education to do a clinical trial that was showing, first of all, there was significant improvement with the use of the game. We did what's called an in-person control, where every child got tested on 3 songs with 18 words total for how well were their speech and language is 2 different parameters. They were only trained on 2 out of the 3 randomly, and then there was a post-assessment on all 3 songs. So they were their own controls in the study.
Hmm.
And it showed significance that when they were trained in our system, they improved. Now, they represented a broad range of types of kids, autism, Down syndrome, stuttering, and also English language learners who had no kind of disability, but simply had not learned English in their home environment.
Mm.
And so we showed improvement in all of those. And we also tested for whether the environment and intervention, as it were, facilitated by the teacher would make any difference versus by the parent. So we did 3 groups. We did teacher facilitated, parent facilitated, and a third group where they were both facilitating
Okay.
so that they got that kind of much more repetition in that way.
Yeah.
We found that all 3 groups showed improvement. So that gave us like the thumbs up that this is really good in all these environments and it's working for the specific outcome that we wanted.
Mm.
That was then published in a peer-reviewed journal called Child Language Therapy and Teaching. And so that's now given us like the evidence-based practice so we can go out and get contracts with people like the California Department of Developmental Services, which we're working with, specifically here in Los Angeles, and we're expanding now throughout the state. And we work with teachers and clinicians and parents and all of those through that study. We have been funded for other development and studies, and we'll be developing our new feature, Make Your Own Song, out of another grant that we just got. And that's going to augment then the effectiveness and engagement of this whole
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. Where are things currently on getting a code for insurance reimbursement
Yes.
purposes?
If you're a client of the California Regional Centers, you qualify for getting it for free. We are looking into getting a CPT code for general insurance anywhere. And right now, for autism, there's a very specific pathway through ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis. It's one area that's very specific for treating autism, and we're looking to get it build inside of that rather than creating a new CPT code. That's one of the things we're working on right now.
Okay. You mentioned a premium level. Is that the level that's available for institutions like clinics where there's multi-user licensing available?
Yeah, absolutely.
Explain what the different
Well,
tiers are.
well, the basic tier is the game itself and access to all of the songs and words and the fun of playing it and choosing and also seeing how far you've gone. And the premium will add a section before you start playing any song. It will give the option to do a pre-assessment of the child's level of speech language for each individual word. So we have a scoring. We show the picture of that word and have a four scale scoring of no response, incorrect, it's correct meaning, but it's not pronounced properly,
Mm,
and then correct pronunciation and usage. So we have these four scores that then can be tracked after each gameplay of the whole song. We can see, are they doing any better now? And we can do
okay.
that throughout the life of the program. They can do it the same day or 3 months later. So we can track the progress over time. Along with that, we can also track which songs they're playing, which words they're getting to, what level they're getting to in the song, how many minutes they played for the last week or month. So there's a lot of different areas of data that we can provide, and that's usually what the professional will want to see, just to kind of know how are they doing.
Yeah,
Should we change something? Should we add something or take something away? Should we point out something important to the parent that might be useful for them to do at home, for
yeah.
example? So there's a lot of possibilities to use the data in different ways.
Okay. Basic level, $9.99 a month,
Right.
$19.99 a month for the premium level, is that right?
Correct. And if we have a large institution, we'll do it either by semester, by the year, or by the quantity of students or clients that they may have.
Okay.
And yeah,
And let's see, on your website, it said you can try it for free for 7 days. Where is it available? It's available throughout the US, and
exactly.
tell us
Well,
about where you are in making this available globally and
technically, we could make it available, but we are wanting to make sure about the legal aspects, about the privacy and security internationally, about any kind of monetary exchange that might be necessary to deal with. But we're getting ready to launch, first of all, in places like UK, Canada, India, all the English speaking countries. It's very ready to go. We've been looking at countries like Korea as well to launch it as an English as a second language teaching device.
okay.
A game. They also have kids with autism, but we don't have a program with the Korean being learned yet. And that's one of our goals in the next couple of years is to make it multilingual. So our first one will be in Spanish, where the kids are singing in Spanish. Right now, they're
Okay.
all singing English. So there's all
And you do
these
have
technical.
the parent guide available now in Spanish, right?
Correct, and it's super important because here in the U.S., particularly in California, up to 50% of our families are Spanish speaking.
Sure.
So we the training for whether they're parents or anybody is available in both Spanish and English. The actual singing and learning the song words and all is currently in English, but we are definitely on the map to make it multilingual and multicultural so that the avatar singing on screen could also be chosen to be, let's say, ethnically similar to the family that's playing.
Sure. Yeah, representative of wherever they are and the
Yeah.
family that's using it. Yeah, great. Well, and I think you do have some English speakers in international countries like UK, Australia using this now, and if somebody's really anxious to get their hands on it, they can email you on your
Yeah,
website and see if they can be sort of
absolutely.
manually added, right?
Yeah, that's how we would do it. Yeah, we can,
Okay.
in the side of the program, we can add a manual, whitelisting, we call it.
Okay.
And we're particularly interested in having professionals who could actually use it and help us integrate into the whole system of their country. Of course, we wanna offer it to everybody, and parents often are the ones that have the biggest need. They want it and they would like it now because we were talking about it. This is critical in a child's development, not to wait. So we're hoping that we can eliminate any barriers and make it frictionless for everybody to use it as quickly as possible. So any suggestions from those who want to use it in other countries, how we can do that for their country, that's also exciting to learn for our sake.
Sure. Well, it seems like such a fabulous program. I was really excited to learn about it, and I really wished it was around 20 years ago when my when my kids were young because I would have loved to have used this. I think it would have been really hugely helpful for our family. So, love what you're doing. Is there anything else that you want to make sure listeners know before we close things up with Coda? Anything else that you want to just make
Sure.
sure the audience knows?
You can try it for free. Just give it a go. And if you think it's interesting and fun, and you have any further questions, just email me and we'll talk about whatever might be a special case for you. And certainly, if you have a larger organization and you'd like to implement, I absolutely want to help develop it for the schools and clinics and larger institutions to be able to serve lots more people. Our goal is to serve the millions of kids all over the world who could benefit from this.
Love
So
it.
that's
Love it.
that's where we're at. Yeah,
Well, we'll have all the links in the show notes, of course, of the website and to the email to contact if people want to either be added manually because they're not in the US, but they speak English, or if they have input as they're using it. David, as you know, I ask all my guests to close out our conversation with a musical ending, a coda, by sharing a song or story about a moment that music enhanced your life. Do you have a song or story that you can share with us in closing today?
sure. I've been a classical clarinetist my whole life. Started very young. I was in three symphony orchestras by the time I was 15, and it just kept on in my life, even though I wasn't going to perform in that way. I started to play in unusual places that brought out some really different aspects of the music itself, but by energy. I began playing in drum circles that are used often for either ritual ceremonial use or for healing circles. And they're very energetic and very loud. And nobody I'd ever heard had played with a clarinetist before. And I figured, why not? So I started learning how the clarinet can be actually a percussion instrument. And that
Oh.
opened me up to what is percussion? It's rhythm, it's beats. So I began playing the clarinet in a rhythmic fashion, as opposed to a melodic fashion, which would be like singing on top of the drums. That's certainly fun and beautiful. But if I'm becoming one with the drummers, I go into it as a rhythm. So I learned how to play the clarinet as a rhythm instrument, which was really interesting. And then I started playing didgeridoo, which is a drone instrument that can be played actually with drummers, but it comes from Australia. It's a Aboriginal instrument. And I started learning how to play that instrument and then came back to the clarinet and began playing it like a drone instrument. So holding long tones, long notes for very significant, energetic healing purposes.
Hmm.
And this developed into attending ecstatic dance events, which were usually done with DJs with recorded music. But after a while, I got invited to play clarinet with this as well, which engaged me not just in playing music, but actually dancing while I'm playing music with the dancers.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it became real a wow for all of us, and I feel really, really
Talk
great
about
that it's
engaging all areas of the brain.
for me, it's like, this kind of exploration, and I'm improvising on top of something that somebody else is playing. So I'm playing with the musicians, and I'm playing with the dancers, and I'm moving my body. It's it's very engaging, and I love it. It's something that, I call it prompting the muse. The muse is, for me, coming through in many different forms, and that's one of the examples.
Thank you so much to David for joining us today and for all he does to enhance lives with music through his work. David wanted me to mention that his company, IQ Sonics, is looking to expand and connect with strategic partners for both collaboration and funding related to healthcare and education for early childhood development. To find out more, just email ss4kids at iqsonics.com. All links are in the show notes. You'll also find a transcript of our conversation and related episodes you may enjoy, including music applications for stuttering, special education, and helping children identify, express, and regulate emotions with music, with a most amazing kids musician who I really wish was old enough to have been making music when my own kids were little, Stephanie Lovell. All Enhanced Life with Music episodes are evergreen, so check out the back catalog for more ways that music can make your life better. If you know of someone who would enjoy this episode, perhaps a parent, a teacher, grandparent, or speech therapist, please share it with them. It's easy to do right in your podcast listening app. Just look for the share feature for options to share by text, email, or social media. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing the show. Until next time, may your life be enhanced with music.